Hello, dear friends. My name is Vasyl Pekhno. I'm a Ukrainian journalist, and I invite all of you, our esteemed English-speaking auditory, to watch this latest update on Ukrainian battle map situation. This is update as of July the 31st of July. So please join, watch this video, share it, actually subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to leave your comments below this video. Let's begin. So what do we see? What do we have? Deep state analysts claim that in the Pokrovsk sector of the front, the Russians are making advances. And to be honest, this advance isn't actually the most concerning. What's happening north of Myrnohrad and Pokrovsk is what really raises the greatest concerns. We see advances in the Rodinsky area. We see advances in the Chervony Lyman area. We see advances in the Razin area. What does this threaten for the Ukrainian armed forces? The threat is that right now we are actually witnessing the Russians advancing between two lakes in the area of Rodinsky and Krasny Lyman. They are advancing close to the mines in the Rodinsky area. This is the Krasnolimanska mine as well as the Myrnohradska mine to the northwest of Novoekonomichne. And I already mentioned this yesterday, and today I am only confirming it. The fact that they are advancing toward the mines, in fact, creates extremely threatening circumstances for us. Because if the occupiers manage to gain a foothold at these infrastructure sites, it will mean that they will use these facilities to amass their troops and accordingly to further assault the Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad areas. Accordingly, as of today, we are truly witnessing a situation where the entire Myrnohrad-Pokrovsk agglomeration is in extremely threatening circumstances of operational encirclement. What does operational encirclement mean? There is no such thing as a half encirclement, nor is there such a thing as a quarter encirclement. There is only operational or complete physical encirclement. Operational encirclement is when the occupiers, for example, cut off our logistical routes. In this context, the logistical routes are three roads that lead from Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, firstly towards Pavlohrad to that area. The second route goes through Rodinske, Belitske, and then to Dobropilia. And there is another road through Hrishin right here also leading to Dobropilia. So more or less, there are three roads now in the area of Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad that the occupiers are trying to cut off. If they succeed, it will mean the operational encirclement of our troops. As of this moment, this operational encirclement has not been achieved, but there are undoubtedly dangers and they need to be taken into account. Further south, in the area of the Novopavlivka section of the front, there is an extremely strong intention, let's say, or desire on the part of the Russians to advance toward the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Dnipropetrovsk region lies here, as you can see along the broad stretch of our front line. All of this is the border of Dnipropetrovsk region, which the occupiers are trying to advance toward. In particular, the situation is difficult right now to the south of the intersection of Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk regions in the area of Maliivka and in the area of Zeleny Pol. In fact, yesterday, the Russians, or even the day before yesterday, to be more precise, published their own images showing that they are advancing in the area of Timirivka and in the area of Maliivka. So these are the two areas that are marked as new shaded zones on the deep state map. Maliivka is in the Zaporizhia region. Timirivka is in the Zaporizhia region, and Maliivka is in the Dnipropetrovsk region. In particular, in the area of Maliivka in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Russians raised this flag of their naval infantry, the naval infantry of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And deep state analysts explained very clearly what this means. These are usually their flag displays. Very often lately, footage has been appearing where the enemy is demonstrating their presence in a particular area, specifically with flags, either the flag of a branch or type of troops, or the flag of the Russian Federation, quite deep in the rear of the Ukrainian Defense Forces battle lines. In most cases, these are simply rather banal and uninspired PR stunts. This is, let's say, just a straightforward and quite transparent way for them to publicly declare their significant presence in certain strategic areas along the precise directions where they are actively advancing. Mostly for such displays of their presence, the Russian command promises, especially to the commanders of assault groups, not even to the infantrymen themselves, but specifically to the commanders of assault groups, they promise them leave. Leave that lasts only 1 month, nothing more. They are told, if you unfurl the flag, you will receive the corresponding leave. That was the case ultimately with Maliivka in the Dnipropetrovsk region as well. The task was set as an infiltration mission using cloaks, either anti-drone cloaks or cloaks that cover the bodies of Russian occupiers and prevent them from being detected by drones. specifically those that use thermal imaging to spot the movement of occupiers. So the plan was to use these cloaks to infiltrate past the positions of the defense forces, then enter the village and raise the flag. After that, pull back and leave lasting 1 month. But for these particular Russians who unfurled this so-called flag of the Russian naval infantry, well, it wasn't meant to be. There will be no leave for them. Because yesterday I showed a video of how our defense forces destroyed these Russian units. Accordingly, the main motivation, this applies to the Sumy region, this applies to the Novopavlivka direction. This applies to any section of the front. The Russians are moving exclusively with the intention, or in Ukrainian, with the aim simply to earn themselves a basic leave, and to unfurl some flag of their branch, their military forces, or a piece of the Russian Federation's flag. This is exactly what happened on the Novopavlivka section of the front, where the Russians advanced right up to Maliivka. Here, once again, on the deep state map, we can observe this advance, or this intention to advance. Right now, the Russians are trying to convince everyone that they have crossed the borders, that Maliivka is in the Dnipropetrovsk region, and that Timirivka is in the territory of Zaporizhzhia region. In fact, a similar Russian advance, a similar plan using anti-drone cloaks is taking place on the Lyman section of the front. By the way, our general staff, the general staff of the armed forces of Ukraine, reports that basically the Lyman section of the front is the second most intense in terms of the number of attacks by the occupiers. And here the Russian command stands out for its particular brutality, as noted by the 66th Separate Mechanized Brigade. How does this particular brutality manifest itself? It is manifested primarily towards their own servicemen, as the personnel of the occupying army are literally forced into our kill zones. Kill zones are areas where our drones, our drone operators, the drone crews control and destroy Russian occupiers across 10, 15, or even 20 kilometers of territory. By the way, an important event yesterday was that the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, led by Yulia Sviridenko, made a decision that now the 18 to 24 program, that is the special contract program for young people aged 18 to 24, will now include, or rather has included, those young people, young professionals and specialists, or young volunteers who want to become drone system operators. This, in fact, is the very essence of unmanned systems. Not only unmanned aerial vehicles, but also unmanned systems, meaning ground robotic complexes. This is precisely a fresh innovation from the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. This is a fresh innovation from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, which introduces new types of contracts. That is now a person who previously, under an 18 or 24-month contract, could make this agreement, so to speak, with the Ministry of Defense for a period of 1 year, was required to perform tasks or assignments in the combat zone for 6 months as an assault trooper, grenadier, or in any other infantry position. Now, this list of individuals is being expanded. It is being expanded to actually include drone system operators, or more accurately, drone system operators and technicians. This means that now operators of unmanned systems, ground robotic complexes, and unmanned aerial complexes are required to sign a 2-year contract with the mandatory condition of participating in combat operations for 12 months, that is, for 1 year. Accordingly, after this, they receive the same preferences, the same social benefits, and the same payments as regular assault troops who have signed a standard 18 to 24-month contract.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
These guarantees include, let's count them off, 1 million hryvnias, which is paid out in 3 stages. The first is upon signing the contract. The second is after completing a combat mission. The third is upon the successful completion of the contract. Next, there is a 12-month deferment after the successful completion of the contract. That is, every mobilized person, every contract soldier who signs such a contract, after successfully fulfilling it, can have a 1-year deferment and not be called up to the military during that time. Next, everyone, absolutely everyone who successfully completes the contract receives a 0% mortgage for purchasing housing. That is, you can buy yourself a home with a 0 interest loan. The fourth condition, which is fulfilled as a result of the 18 to 24-month contract, concerns the fact that fighters who, again, successfully complete the contract as UAV operators or operators of ground robotic systems after successfully completing this contract will be able to travel abroad. This is also a certain privilege that the government is now adopting. How it will be implemented will now be determined by the general staff. What is meant is the list of units, the list of organizational structures, and the list of positions that are directly covered by this 18 to 24-month contract. This will be implemented in the near future. Accordingly, this is a step, let's say, towards the future fulfillment by our army of the tasks it must carry out, particularly in eliminating the Russian occupiers who are now relentlessly advancing on the front. Let's move from the Lyman section of the front to the Novopavlivka section, where not only are the occupiers in the area of Myrnohrad and Maliivka advancing toward the borders of Dnipropetrovsk or Zaporizhzhia regions, but overall there is ongoing pressure in the form of Russian advances as they attempt to accomplish their objectives in the south of Ukraine, Donetsk region. In particular, I would like to highlight Oleksandrivka in this context. We can see that here too there is an advance by the Russian occupiers. In Oleksandrivka, the enemy is currently present on the outskirts of this settlement and is trying to establish a foothold there. Next is Voskresenka. Voskresenka is further south. In Voskresenka, it can almost be recorded or summed up as the loss of the settlement, as well as the overall large pocket to the east, Myrne, Perebudova, Komar. This entire gray zone, which is now marked on the deep state map, is essentially lost. In addition, the occupier has made advances toward the settlement of Iskra. In Iskra, forward groups of the occupiers are currently being observed, and unfortunately there are certain prospects for further advancement. The same applies to Zeleny High. The same applies to Filia. And what's most interesting is that Filia is already in the Dnipropetrovsk region. In fact, right now we are witnessing the occupiers advancing and actually accomplishing all the objectives related to the Novopavlivka section of the front here. Moreover, Filia is already practically on the outskirts of Novopavlivka. Because if we move forward, we'll see that Novopavlivka lies in the area of the Mokry Yali River, but actually it's not even Mokry Yali, it's the Vovcha River. Mokry Yali turns into the Vovcha River right in this area. And Novopavlivka is actually one of these frontline sectors, both Novopavlivka and Filia. Accordingly, there is a certain prospect, a trend toward positive developments for the occupiers, specifically on the Novopavlivka section of the front. Today, I would like to highlight the Kherson section of the front in a separate review because, first of all, I want to show this video from our soldiers who disrupted the creation of a staged scene, the very scene with which we began today's review. A scene that was created for Russian propaganda, supposedly showing a sabotage group landing on the right bank of Kherson. What does this scene demonstrate? These are Russian occupiers who, using a drone, dropped their tricolor, their rag, their flag with a magnet onto the Kherson bridge in the Antonivka area. This rag with a magnet stuck to the rails, and as a result, the Russians were able to film a so-called victorious video with their tricolor, as if they are present on the right bank of the Kherson region. However, this is not true. Ukrainian defenders immediately removed, this scrap, and no enemy sabotage groups were found there. Therefore, it can be stated that there are still no Russian occupiers on the right bank of the Kherson region. However, today, as of today, July 31st, I have to highlight the situation regarding what some of our public military personnel are writing. This situation concerns the 34th Coastal Defense Brigade, which is currently defending the right bank of the Kherson region. This situation is about the significant complaints regarding the top, let's say, command of this brigade. The point is that the complaints are about the leadership, since allegedly there has been no analysis of the unit's previous actions over the months, years, and days of defending the right bank of the Kherson region. I quote, "Only stubborn obstinacy and senseless missions on the islands from which 90% of the personnel do not return." I'll be honest, I'm not ready to, so to speak, sign off on, endorse, or unequivocally interpret these words. But I have received, to be completely honest and forthright, not just one, so to speak, significant gesture, not just a single notification, and certainly not just one solitary update regarding what is truly and genuinely happening on the right bank of the Kherson region with the leadership of certain specific coastal defense brigades. I'm speaking very diplomatically and carefully right now, where certain inexplicable and rather puzzling actions are currently taking place. Right now, as of today, I am merely relaying the opinions that are appearing in the Telegram channels of our public military figures. But if these signals keep coming in, we will have to take a more serious look at what is happening in the Kherson region. As of now, there is no talk of the Russians having even the slightest chance of landing their troops on the right bank of the Kherson region. But if these negative scenarios about the leadership, which does not value its own people, its subordinates, really turn out to be true,
If they are defending on the right bank of the Kherson region and are not conducting any so-called post-action reviews, then we will have to talk about this publicly. On this, let's say, rhetorical note, I will put a period for today and thank you for your attention, friends. Thank you once again. Please give us your likes, write your comments, and subscribe to our channel. Take care of yourselves. All the best and see you next time.